I was doing the t-shirt toss in a random section, and Nordy's always there for the t-shirt toss. Well, I was still on camera. They didn't tell me what to do after I read my script. They didn't tell me to get out of the way or anything. So me and Nordy had a collision, and it was on the Jumbotron.
The Wild are back in action, and our guest, Kirsten Krull, joins us to talk about her new role with the team. And we've got lip lettuce, Lake Tahoe, and slick skates to talk about too, all in episode 61.
Pay homage to the Met Center, Metrodome, Fogarty, or your favorite former Viking. What's up, Randy Moss mooning? With any of Soda 6 Classics throwback tees. Looking to sip on a different flavor? Check out the McGolden Light Pond Hockey and Fishing Club merch line for that extra Minnesota flavor. Toss down that Bardown Beauties code at checkout for free shipping on all purchases at sodastick.com. Hello, everybody. What's happening? We're back, episode 61. Let's go. The Wild are back in action. Hopefully you guys have been catching our previews, Alexis. You were right. That was way harder than it should have been to start these previews back up. Like 14 days, we're just as rusty as those players.
I literally was like, okay, time to record my preview. This should take me 3 minutes. And like 20 minutes later, I'm on like take 7. I'm like, oh my God,
my face ruined so many takes. Like I was like, oh, that words were good.
Well, and plus then you like start thinking about it more and you're like, is my face doing the right things? Am I smiling too hard? Like, what's my hair doing? And then eventually, like, I just get to a point where I'm like, you know what? If I mess up, I mess up. Like, we're just going to keep going with it. And although you did much better with your preview so far than my preview was a complete flop, you're off to a good start.
I'm on the money. Well, I mean, and it feels so good because actually, so I have a group chat with my husband and some of his friends. And so the past we've done like prop bets lately or like different things. And I've been accurate on all of those and they just keep giving me shit still. And I'm like, you guys, I know what I'm talking about. Like, I swear I've been watching, I've watched more away games this year than I have in the past, just because I usually need that
you get
break,
burnt out,
right? Yeah. And so this year, I think that's made the huge difference. And naturally in the games coming back, and it also helps, we're seeing the same teams over and over again.
Yeah.
You know what to expect. So it makes it a lot easier for me to break it down. But not that I hope for a Ducks win, but
no offense, we want you to be a little bit wrong on this.
A little wrong. Okay,
just a little.
I'm happy. Thank you for everybody for checking that out. We will talk more Wild in depth on our YouTube exclusive. A lot of really great questions about the power play, about center, about Jack Eichel. A lot of really good conversation. Be sure to head over to our YouTube channel to check out the Q's with the Beauts, where we have in-depth analysis of the team itself. Moving on, I mean, great that they're back. Woohoo. COVID protocols kind of come and gone away. I mean, again, the last thing I want to touch on with them, Alexis, I mean, they had so many injuries. You saw Jared Spurgeon was hurt. Matt Dumba was hurt. But they came back when the team returned. I mean, do you think that's going to obviously be a theme throughout the year for other squads that struggle maybe with injuries and you get to use that COVID break? Because we talked about it last week. It's going to hit every team. I think it's going to be hard. You're going to be hard pressed to not have a team face pauses because of COVID.
Yeah, it's definitely, you do catch a bit of a break there. If there is a silver lining, it's that the guys who are healthy and stay healthy through a COVID outbreak there can get some extra rest. Even if they don't have a significant injury, at certain points in the season, your body just gets beat up and you need that little extra break. It's kind of like when they started, I think this was a couple years ago, they instituted the like 5-day breaks throughout the season for each team, where basically for about a week, they don't play a game. And some teams will get lucky where that lines up right where they've got some guys who are injured and you catch a little bit of a break there where they can kind of get healthier or get closer to a return without having to miss any games. So you do see a little bit of that, with Spurgeon back. He wasn't back on the first game back, but he was back for the first Ducks game.
Looked so good in that first Ducks game. Like better than he has all season, I'm almost willing to say.
Jared Spurgeon on the penalty kill, that one penalty kill where he had like 3 great stick plays where he just broke up a pass. I was like, this is what dreams are made of. Like, please give me this Jared Spurgeon every single night.
Captain. I liked it.
Yeah. So it's nice to see. And I thought Matt Dumba's looked great since he's been back as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he, hasn't scored or anything, but he's looked good. He's looked comfortable. And so, yeah, if there is a silver lining to that, it's some of those guys, those big name players who are very important to the Wild, got a little bit of extra rest and can now get back into the swing of things.
Transition then into some of the newer guys, the newer faces. Again, we'll talk a little bit more of this on Q's with the Beauts, because we did have a question directly about Callan Addison, who has been highly touted. People are excited to see him on the blue line. Finally got a glimpse of him. More importantly, finally got a glimpse of that stash. Alexis, what is your thought on the lip lettuce, Mr. Callan Addison?
Okay, I love mustaches. Anybody who knows me knows I love a good mustache. Hashtag Stan the stash. His mustache is one of the like creepy mustaches though, but I respect it. And we haven't seen a mustache this good on the wild since Cal Clutterbuck's famous mustache. So I was happy to see like some facial hair attention on the wild for the first time in a long time. And I think the best part was when they like went to a shot of him on the bench after he like got hit or something, and he's like fixing his stash. I was like, that is like quality TV. What more do you want? It was just like, I don't know. Yeah, not the best stash I've ever seen, but I still appreciate it, and I love talking about it, and I love the attention it was getting on social media.
It's like a little caterpillar. I think that was the best, that, the little caterpillar for sure. And he's got the long hair too, right?
I know,
he's just
got the whole look
this
going
look.
on.
Yeah, you got it. You love to see that. Speaking of six stashes and six stashes that I know Alexis loves, Austin
so
Matthews.
Yes.
How unreal has he been so far this season? I mean, let's broaden our NHL coverage here. He's on pace to maybe like 40 goals in a shortened season, right? I mean, it's absolutely unreal. And I've always been a huge fan of Austin Matthews. Hashtag USA Hockey all the way.
Yep.
But, I think, are you surprised that he's really excelled even more? I mean, it's exciting to watch.
First of all, I just want to say, if you guys want us to introduce a weekly Austin Matthews segment, just let us know. I'd be more than happy to force Jesse and Fred into doing that every week. But yeah, 15-game point streak. He leads the league in goals right now and just looks great. I mean, my three favorite teams, Minnesota Wild, and then I'm always watching the Maple Leafs and the Blue Jackets because I love Torts and I love Austin Matthews. So I watch a lot of those games as well, especially when the Wild aren't playing. So I've watched quite a bit of Maple Leafs hockey this season, and Austin Matthews has just looked so good. I mean, and again, I think that in weird times like this where there's pauses and delays and postponements and just a lot of questions surrounding the season, I think it benefits the younger guys because they're more in shape already. It's easier for them to get back into the swing of something after a pause. And so I think that the younger guys benefit from a season like this as far as, kind of everything getting thrown into chaos. But Austin Matthews is just, I mean, granted, he's got a lot of great line mates who help make him look so good.
I love me some Mitch Marner, you know that.
Mitch Marner, I mean, it's just those two are one heck of a team. But yeah, Austin Matthews has looked great lately, and it's easy to cheer for the Maple Leafs because, I mean, granted, this season is different, but in a normal season, they're in the Eastern Conference. I can cheer for them without feeling bad. Same with the Blue Jackets. So yeah, I hope Austin Matthews continues his streak. They had a bit of a meltdown against the Ottawa Senators on the week you guys are watching this last week. But since then, they've looked good. They had a win against the Senators after, and then won like 7-1 the night after that. So yeah, it's been fun to watch them perform, and fun to see guys have such great seasons because you don't know who's maybe going to fall off this season because they can't get back into the swing of stuff. So to see familiar faces performing well is really nice to see.
Heck yeah, put a bow on this NHL talk. Lake Tahoe game this past weekend. It'll have happened obviously by Monday. Seeing the pictures, so gorgeous. And it's the first time that they will have an outdoor game on a golf course. Usually it's been at a football venue or a baseball venue. So it's on a golf course. Gorgeous overlook of the mountains and the lake itself. I mean, how excited are you to watch this? I know it's probably bittersweet Wild fans because we were supposed to have the Winter Classic.
Can we address the beef I have with the league first? Then we'll get into how exciting this is.
Always.
Yeah. So, yeah, NHL, I've got beef with you, so come talk to me because you took away the Wild's Winter Classic and that you have games out in Lake Tahoe, so I don't know what that's all about, but I am excited to watch some outdoor hockey because there's just something so special about outdoor hockey, and, it just feels like the roots of hockey, and it's so much fun, and so a new location, I'm excited for all of that. Also, the commercials for the Lake Tahoe, so satisfying, where the girls, NHL hockey. Like, oh my God, I could listen to that all day. That's beautiful. But yeah, it should be a fun weekend of hockey as we get to see some outdoor games finally.
I almost honestly, they kept sending like, oh, submit your media request. And I was like, I should do this. And my husband's like,
should I go?
Why? And I'm like, because I just want to go. It looks so freaking pretty. Like, I just want to go take that in. For those of you that don't know me, I will take mountains over the ocean any day of the week.
Oh my God.
Give me mountains all day, every day. I am infatuated with them. So I think that scene, and then you've got the water and just, chef's kiss. Is that what we do, Alexis?
Chef's kiss. That is what we do. That's what the kids do.
Right, Fred? Lake Tahoe. Are you mountains or ocean?
Well, I lived kind of in Seattle, so I was surrounded by the mountains there, and the ocean there you couldn't even be in because it was such a cold Pacific from snow melt.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not a guy that just like likes to
Fred,
sit.
thank you for that input.
I'm not someone who
Appreciate
just likes to sit on a beach and just sit there. I need to
I need to
do
explore.
something.
Oh,
I need to
that's
explore.
me.
So I'm more of a
I
mountain
could
person.
live on the beach. I could live on the beach. Throw me out there with like enough books to keep me busy for 2 weeks. You won't even hear from me. I'd be fine.
Nah, that Lake Tahoe, my dream vacation to watch some outdoor hockey. I absolutely love it. So that's all we have for Wild News. Again, be sure to check out Cues with the Beauts on YouTube. Subscribe while you're there so you don't miss a second. A lot of wild breakdown, a lot of player breakdown, game analysis can be found there this week. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, our guest, Kirsten Krull. Stay tuned.
Hey guys, this is producer Fred. Gentlemen, I want to take a moment and talk about your hedges, about your rough, your fairway, your greens, your front lawn, and backyard. Is it manicured enough to improve your overall curb appeal? Well, we want to introduce you to our new partner, Manscaped. Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. The Manscaped engineering team spent 18 months perfecting the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created. They just released the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0, waterproof for shower trimming, a premium battery and charging station. Manscaped has you and your sensitive areas covered. Get 20% off and free shipping when you use code BEAUTS at checkout. That's 20% off and free shipping when you use code BEAUTS. That's BEAUTS at checkout.
Joining us now, up-and-coming superstar broadcaster with an affinity for Huskies and Black Labs. You can catch her on the Minnesota Wild's Wild Amplified series and on her recently debuted Off the Record podcast. Kirsten Krull. Kirsten, what's going on, girl?
Not a lot going on today. Really happy that we've finally reached the end of the week. And I just wanted to let you guys know too, thank you so much for inviting me on. I've listened to your guys' podcast most frequently when I'm at the gym. So that's my background, and I just love what you guys do. So thank you again. I'm honestly, again, honored that you guys invited me on.
I love that. Thank you. And so now that's a verified review. We are great to listen to while you're getting your pump on, getting your workouts in. You guys keep that in mind. Be sure to tune us in wherever you can. Speaking of podcasts, I had mentioned you're debuting your own podcast. Tell us a little bit about Off the Record. You're just 1-2 episodes in now, right?
Yeah, we just recorded our second episode and we're working on the third already. And it is something that I've actually wanted to do for a while, start my own show, especially too once sports were put on pause during the beginning of the pandemic and we didn't have work or sports. That was when I was really realizing I need to have an outlet for myself that is always there in case something like this ever were to happen again. So that's when the idea really started. And then over the summer, I was reaching out to one of my really good friends, Paige, and just telling her my idea. And she said she was on board. And really what put it on hold for a while was trying to just figure out who would maybe be the perfect host to do it with. And one of the names that kept coming back to my mind was my friend Alexis Downey. She works for Stadium out in Chicago. And she's somebody that I had connected with a couple of years ago. And her name just kept coming to my mind. And I brought her up to Paige. Paige is telling me I need to go ask her. So I did. And she said yes. We both ran it by our bosses. And we really started getting everything together for it back in November, then debuted it 2-3 weeks ago now. And it's just another outlet for us to really just talk sports. I mean, football was my very first love. And I think that surprises a lot of people when I tell them that. That was always what I dreamed of working in. And then I went to St. Cloud State and my path kind of changed a little bit and I went down more of the hockey route. But it's just another outlet for us to talk baseball, football, women's sports, other news that's happening just in everything. And that's really what we wanted to do because both of us primarily work in hockey. So what better way to get to talk about other things as well.
And so you've been putting this together for a while. You didn't come together like Fred, Alexis, and I within 2 weeks and say, hey, we'll give this a shot. You actually put a little bit more time into it, huh?
Some preparation.
Yeah.
Well, we like to think so. I mean, I think there was a little bit of procrastinating that dragged it out a little bit more. I'm known to do that. But yeah, it was a little bit more preparation than a lot of projects that I've worked on in the past where I've just kind of thrown together. Hey, look at you guys too. I mean, it was a quick idea, but it turned into
Yeah, I was like, yeah, why not? Podcast, sure. Who cares? Who's going to listen to us anyway? And here we are a year later, like, oh, people listen to us at the gym, wherever they can. So it's great.
Yeah.
Mr. Minnesota Planet Fitness.
Kirsten, for those who don't know, Kirsten and I went to college together, both Huskies, both went through the broadcast program there. So Kirsten and I have known each other for, well, gosh, it's probably been 6 years now, because she's a year younger than me. So, but we've been through all of that in college together. And so we've known each other a little while. And like you said, football was actually your first passion. And that's something I always remembered about you as we went through school, even though you were kind of down that hockey path and did a lot of hockey stuff and still are more known for that hockey path. You always loved football. And like you said, your podcast isn't just hockey centered. It's, covers a broad range of things. How do you, prepare for that, where you have so many different things you want to talk about? I mean, it's hard enough sometimes for us just with hockey to figure out, how do we narrow this down? Now you've got all these things you want to cover. What has that been like, picking out what you want to talk about on your podcast?
In all honesty, it sometimes gets to be a lot, because like you mentioned, there's so much going on where you're really hockey focused, and even more so Minnesota Wild focused when you're preparing a show for work and doing these little mini segments for the Wild Rewards app, which are the two big things I'm doing right now, plus all of the behind the scenes that people don't see. So that's really been obviously the main focus for me, because that's my job. That's what I get paid to do. So the rest is just free time, my passion, what I like to do. So anytime, and a lot of people might not know this too, I start my day, lately it's been starting a lot later, usually 10, but before I used to wake up at 4 a.m. and watch Sports Center before I would go to school, catch up on Mike and Mike was my favorite show. Now it kind of switched over to Get Up with Mike Greenberg. And so that's where I get a lot of my news, and it really keeps me up to date with everything going on in the sports world, and then the breaking news on Sports Center. So that's where we get a lot of the ideas for our show too, just the hot topics that are going on. So that's one thing we really try to do, just staying up with the current news, I think is one of the biggest things, and it can be really hard to do, especially when you want to maybe take a break from the Twitter or social media, just to give yourself a mental break. And sometimes in this profession too, I found that really hard, just to give yourself that time away from everything. Because if you do, then it seems
that's when something happens. That's when a trade comes down. That's when a coach is fired. That's when we're all like, oh, okay, I guess we need to pay attention all the time.
Those 20 minutes you step away from your computer, all of a sudden, all of these trades are just, the whole sports world is on fire. So it's really hard sometimes.
I used to do the same thing with Sports Center. Granted, that was because we didn't have Twitter when I was coming up through college. In complete honesty, I think it came about my senior year of college, but it was the same way. It was habit, right? It was just watching Sports Center. I mean, is that kind of your biggest piece of advice to any young kid, is just to really embrace yourself, engulf yourself in sports by watching Sports Center, reading the newspapers, reading different things? I mean, would that be kind of the biggest key to success, you think?
I think it would be a really good place to start. I don't know if I would necessarily say the key to success, but that was the route I kind of went down because I was in 7th grade when I came to this idea, this is what I was going to do. And I think a lot of people are surprised by that as well. Like, oh, you realized that early on. Honestly, it's crazy that I realized it then and just kind of have stuck with it ever since. It's been 12 years now. Please don't check my math, because I don't think that's right. But that's exactly what I did. I had played some sports. I was never good at sports. So the next best thing for me was to really just watch athletes who are actually good at their jobs and broadcasters with so much experience too, that are at a level where I'm hoping to be at someday, and really learn their techniques, their way of broadcasting games. And you learn the game so much better that way as well. And for me, I've always wanted to be really comfortable with what I'm talking about. I get really insecure sometimes that I'm going to say something wrong and somebody's going to go and fact check me saying, well, that's not right. You didn't get that piece of news right. Or somebody's going to ask me a question and I might not know the answer to it. So that was, especially at such a young age, when a lot of people in school were, challenging if you actually know sports. It was more uncommon, I think, for girls my age to know so much about sports and be that passionate about sports to the guys that I went to school with. So they constantly were wanting to talk to me about what was going on. So I think that also helped fuel me wanting to just have things ready to go in my back pocket and having these conversations. And I think those conversations also helped me gain a lot of different perspective and knowledge as well. And another weird thing about me is I love reading nonfiction books. I love reading stories about people and how they got to where they are. One of my favorite books I read over the summer was from Urban Meyer on how he coached at Ohio State and Florida, just all the experience that he gained. And it's books like that that I read and I really gained a lot of perspective from, and random tidbits too. Another one back in 7th grade was a autobiography on Tom Landry, the former coach of the Dallas Cowboys. So here I am, 13 years old, just spitting random facts about the historic Dallas Cowboys out to people, and they're like, what are you talking about?
Well, what's the hardest trivia question that's been tossed your way? I know we've talked about that, how girls do get challenged far more than guys do, right? Like, I'm sure Fred goes to the bar and is very unassuming and nobody's going to question whether he actually knows what's going on in the game.
I don't know sports.
Whereas Alexis and I go and it's going to be like, oh, well, who won the Stanley Cup though in 1972 and how many goals? Like, I mean, what's the hardest question maybe that's been tossed your way?
Gosh, there's been a few. And to be completely honest, I haven't gotten nearly as many recently as I did when I first was telling people, more so in high school, late middle school, this is the career path I wanted to go to. People were a lot more testy with me back then. But I think one of the questions that I do remember getting, I was just talking to a guy that I went to school with, and you know, I had told him that I was watching a hockey game that was on, ironically, at the time. And he goes, I bet you can't even name 5 players on that team. Not that that was a hard question for me to answer. I knew what I was watching, so I could do it. But there was questions like that. And then, you know, going back to when I talked about how I would read these nonfiction books on historical characters, I would talk about it a lot at my job at the time. I worked at a local gym here in Rochester. And I was talking to one of my older coworkers who was a personal trainer, maybe in his 40s, about these books I was reading, and he was asking me questions. That was a little bit more tricky. Those honestly may have been the hardest questions that I had. He was asking me things about the 1960s Dallas Cowboys, and there was a lot that I did know. There's also a lot that I didn't know, so that was actually kind of hard.
Well, another area that, you know, is very important in growing your kind of your repertoire, your resume, is once you get to college and you start getting that real life experience and you start taking those classes, which you and I went through the rigmarole of all of that at St. Cloud State, which I always say has been
great word, Alexis. I like that.
Thank you.
Well done.
It's been one of the best things that happened to me in my path to becoming a broadcaster. And I think, Kirsten, you would agree. The things that St. Cloud offers you is amazing. And you did one of the coolest things that St. Cloud offers, which is being a part of the Husky Productions hockey broadcast. And you did it for a handful of years. I know you really enjoyed that. What kind of things did you learn from that? What kind of tools were put in your toolbox throughout that experience? Because it really is different than so many other schools. And it's really top tier level production. And we're in our teens and early 20s doing it. So what did you learn from an experience like that now that you're, you know, in the real world doing it?
Yeah, Alexis, I think you really hit it on the head there with everything you just said. I gained so many valuable pieces that I still use when I'm at work now, or even little things when I'm doing, you know, podcasts, updating my website, just random things like that I never really expected to be as beneficial as it is. And it's funny too, because I get people that message me on Twitter or Instagram that are aspiring broadcasters who ask me, they say, well, how did you get this much experience so early? Or how are you working for Fox and things like that? I'm like, well, I don't work for Fox, but I did get that awesome opportunity through the hockey broadcast, which honestly, I can't think of anywhere else that really offers that. And the other broadcasters that I have connected with through the years, they always tell me too, that's so awesome that you get that. We don't have that opportunity here. And so I think that just put into perspective even more how lucky I am to, if anything, been given such a launch pad to get to where I am now. And St. Cloud State, they have great programs, great facilities. great professors and people
Yeah.
that know a lot of people in the industry too, that really set you up for success in that program. And it's crazy to think too, because this small school in smack dab
Yeah.
central Minnesota, I know
Yeah.
I had never heard of it
Yeah.
before. I started looking for schools, so it was kind of a hidden gem. And yeah, just a lot of really great opportunities there. And you mentioned Husky Productions. They're really, I don't think I could have picked a better place to start. And it
Yeah.
didn't even really feel like a place for me to learn. It truly felt like this was a full-time job
Yeah.
that I was dedicated to, and just an unreal opportunity, because I look around for people too that work in sports, and that's more so an end goal for them,
Yeah.
that they hope they can work for a team as a reporter. And I just sit back and think I am so lucky, because I got to do that for 2 years when I was still in college. And sometimes it still doesn't feel real to look back on that and think I already have that experience.
Well,
Well,
and the
and
other
it's not a bad time to have covered the Huskies, right?
Right,
Like
yeah.
they're so fun to watch. I mean, I had a time, St. Cloud was nothing. Nobody was concerned with
Yeah.
St. Cloud, right? And they've turned into this program. I mean, like you said, what were some of the exciting aspects for you to cover such a successful program at this time? And tell us about that perspective.
Yeah, well, I like to say my first senior year, because I ended up staying for 5 years.
Me too.
It wasn't fully in the cards. It just kind of happened. But that season was something special. I think they went, if I remember correctly, the entire season undefeated on home ice,
Yeah.
which I think maybe they had maybe only even dropped one game or tied it just during the regular season. So that made my job really easy, because you guys can maybe attest to this, but having to interview people after a loss or a really bad game
Yeah.
is not always the most fun thing to do, or something that you're looking forward to. So winning all those games really made my job easy. Everyone was almost always in a really great mood. But getting to cover the Huskies winning the Penrose Cup, getting to work a couple Hockey Day Minnesotas that the Huskies were a part of, you know, when Bob Motzko left, getting in a new head coach, those are just a few things. And then you have those really exciting games too. Like anytime North Dakota or Minnesota
Yeah.
Duluth would come to town, the arena is just packed. And that's one thing that I really love about reporting too, is you are right in the atmosphere, and it's electric. You just feed off of it, and you feed off of the crowd, and it just makes it so much more fun. I've always wanted to be right there, and I think that's why I've always wanted to be a reporter, because you're literally on the bench. There's been a couple of times almost getting hit in the head with a puck. But that's all of the fun to me. You get to hear the emotion from the players. You're, again, just right there.
Something else I wanted to ask about St. Cloud State was, because it's such a good school for broadcasting, and because there's so many talented kids who go there and get these skills, and then you go on and work with them in the real world as well. What are some of the pros and cons of being around? I know this is something I think about all the time. I'm like, everyone I went to school with was so good. Like, it's hard sometimes to stand out, and you have to work that much harder because everyone around you is so talented as well. And you're working together, but there's also certain roles where, you know, like for the reporter role, you're working against your friends as well to try to get that role for the auditions and all of that. So talk about that a little bit, and kind of just being around such talented people who then we go and work in the real world, and they're right next to us, or they're our producer, or they're covering the team we're playing against, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, and I'm happy you asked that too, because there have St. Cloud State especially, there's been so many talented broadcasters to come through it, that also too, when you go out and you have internships or you're working with people in the field, there definitely is, that I have noticed, a different kind of expectation surrounding you when you tell people you're from St. Cloud State. Then they start naming off all of these names of notable alum, and they know the broadcasting program. Yep. And that seems to be a common trend, that throughout internships and everything I've learned, people know the university and they know the product that they put out. And I think it was something I actually struggled with when I was younger, because I came into St. Cloud State wanting to just hit the ground running immediately. And I wanted, you know, I knew of the ice side reporting position since I was a junior in high school. And that was my goal since then, that I was going to get that job. And it's a reality check once you get in right away. You need to, you know, pay your dues. And even if I look back, if I would have gotten that role when I was a freshman, I wouldn't have known what to do. And I tell people all the time, I didn't come from a hockey family. So I really had to learn the game on my own. No one in my family watched hockey. I didn't even start watching till I was a junior in high school. And I am appreciative for that time I had to wait, because it not only made me want it that much more, but it gave me the time I needed to learn the game of hockey the right way, so that information I'm reporting on, I can know what I'm talking about and relay it to the audience. And also, I got the opportunity to learn from a handful of really, really great reporters. Taylor Budge, who now works up in North Dakota, Bobby
Katie
Bolig, Katie Emmer.
Yeah.
And I really learned a lot of really great things from all of them. And I got to see the way they got things done firsthand. And Katie was really helpful too when I was getting ready to report my very first Huskies game. She really sat down with me and went over things, and I'm really thankful she did that. Then when I got the role a year later, I'm not going to lie, it was kind of another challenge that I had to face, because Katie has gone on incredible things. She's awesome what she does. She's one of the best people I've ever met, especially working in this industry. But then there's that shadow too, that when you come into the role somebody so great had before you, there's, you're filling in Katie's shoes. You got big shoes to fill. And people would say that to me. I'd be like, I know, she's awesome. And that puts even more pressure on yourself to have this job, and you're trying to do the best you can. And it's definitely a big learning curve when you're doing it for the first time. And it did make it harder. And I put a lot of unnecessary pressure on myself to be as good as Katie was. And, looking back, I wish I could tell myself just to chill out, relax, be yourself.
Yeah,
exactly. Because that's the most important thing. And it sounds so cliche, just be yourself in this industry. And especially when you're so young and you're still trying to figure out who you are and what your brand is, you don't really figure it out until you get going. So there was a lot of pros to having such great people, but at the same time, it put a lot of unnecessary pressure and expectations, not necessarily that other people were putting on me, but that I was putting on myself.
I'm going to water down this Husky love. No, I'm just kidding. I do. I think it is. It's so cool that you guys have those opportunities there at St. Cloud. But you had mentioned hockey really wasn't your thing. You learned so much with the Husky program, and now you are with the Minnesota Wild, with Wild Amplified. How did that opportunity come about? And tell us a little bit more about what Wild Amplified is for those that haven't heard of it just yet.
Yeah. And it's funny you ask this question now, because I had actually just written something on my personal website about the story on how I got this job. And I think I'm still even processing it today. It still doesn't feel like this is actually my job. I still feel like I'm just kind of job shadowing and just going to go to the Excel. But it was actually really unexpected and random. It was January of 2020. So super early on, I was in my final semester of school, and I was just starting to get my final demo reel together, start looking for jobs, trying to network and put my stuff out there as much as possible to see, if, for lack of a better term, any fish bit the hook or bit my line. So I was probably kind of more obnoxious, posting like, I'm looking for jobs all over my Twitter and
please hire me. That's what works though, right?
Yes, exactly. And I was at Texas Roadhouse. That's where I worked throughout my senior year as a server. And it was a random night. It was really slow. I just pulled out my phone. I was sitting on a counter and I looked at my LinkedIn, and I actually got a message from somebody on their marketing team for the Minnesota Wild. And so immediately gauged my interest. And I opened the message, and basically she was saying, we're creating a new position. We want to see if you're interested at all. I couldn't type yes fast enough. I started just kind of freaking out, and, a little bit more of exchanging emails back and forth. We set up a day for an interview, and I was expecting maybe just one or two people in this interview. It was a virtual interview. I was getting ready for a St. Cloud State broadcast, and there was maybe two people I told that I was interviewing for this job. I was super nervous. Wasn't expecting to get it or even get far in the interview process. I was just under the impression this is going to be a really great experience for interviewing for jobs. And so I go into this Zoom meeting. There's 6 people in a boardroom, and then just me. I was sweating through my shirt. I was so nervous. And, I thought the interview went okay. I didn't know for sure. I didn't know if I answered some of the questions they asked me the best. And then a couple of days later, they emailed me back. They said they liked me. They wanted me to come for a live interview to actually host a game in arena. Because some people may not know that's my main duty that I have with the team. But since there hasn't been any fans, that's changed things a little bit for me so far. But I went and did the in-arena game, hosting it. During one of the segments, it was, I think, during the Walmart game. I think that's what it was. Some sort of promo. I had a fan. The prompter actually went out on me.
Oh, no.
I didn't know what I was going to say. I didn't have a script. This was my first or second time reading through this. So I just winged it, and it went okay. And then another incident too, I was doing the t-shirt toss in a random section, and Nordy's always there for the t-shirt toss. Well, I was still on camera. They didn't tell me what to do after I read my script. They didn't tell me to get out of the way or anything. So me and Nordy had a collision, and it was on the Jumbotron. And just, I was super embarrassed. And then, Nordy's handler, if you will, told me, get out of the shot, get out of the shot. So after that,
move it, girl.
Finally got out of the shot. And so those were the 2 big takeaways that I took from hosting my first game in arena. And this is, again, me going off on a tangent. Sorry for making this story so long. It's another thing, too, that I still think is just really cool. This might sound cheesy to some people, but I'm a firm believer in signs from the universe and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys are. But at the set where you in arena host the stage, there was a framed article of the 1970 state hockey high school tournament that the John Marshall Rockets had actually won. That's my high school. And
Nice.
It was really random because I was just talking to the person who was hiring me about that specific game. Then we walked downstairs and it was framed right there, and I'd never seen it before. So I told her, and it was something that just kind of stopped me in my tracks. And to me, I took that as the universe telling me this is where I need to be. This is my sign. And so after hosting that game, they emailed me back again, told me they wanted me to come back and host more games throughout the rest of the season. Well, as the universe would have it, the next game I was supposed to host was the day the league went on pause. And I have not yet hosted a game in arena since.
Well, we're waiting on it.
Yes, it's coming soon. And, I was supposed to originally hear back about the job in April. The pandemic was raging. Sports completely shut down. I ended up not hearing back. I heard back a couple of times here and there, but I officially got hired in October. So it was a long wait, but really worth it. And then they told me, until we can get fans in, we have this new show we're going to launch. We want you to host it. I was super excited. And that's what I've really been doing since. We do a weekly show called Wild Amplified. It covers highlights, news going on within the team and the organization, and then features other hockey players or other hockey stories from across the state. And so that's been a lot of fun for me, getting to just host my own show right away. And not only that, but for a team right in my hometown. So the whole journey was just super unexpected, but I think I'm still pinching myself. For me, working for a team is something I imagine being my end goal, not something right out of college. So still doesn't feel real, and every day I just feel really, really grateful to be doing it.
I'm there at the games. If you want to come and do an in-arena host while just to us media people, we would love that. It would be wonderful.
Well, it's funny you say that, because they are going to start having in arena. So the next home game, I think, is the 26th.
Yep.
I will be there. The rest of the season.
FaceTime me in, Jesse. FaceTime me in.
I'll FaceTime you. I will. Yeah, we'll all be there. We'll all hang out and stand 6 feet apart and get it.
Cut me a little slack.
Well, I guess kind of to wrap things up, what are your future? You said the team was always the end goal here, but you've made it so far. I mean, what does maybe a next step look like for you, or what does the future look like for you? Because you're still so young and you've achieved so much so early on in your career, which is absolutely tremendous. That sky's truly the limit for you.
Well, thank you for that. And I think it changes a lot, to be honest, because there's a lot that I do want to do. I used to be actually against hosting. I kind of crossed it out as something that I thought I would do because I didn't think I'd be cut out or good enough for it. And I had always just thought reporting is what I'm going to be doing. That's my lane. I need to stay in. And that's changed. Now I would love to report still. I still have a passion for that. But now I think it would be really fun just to be a host for shows. Something that I always thought I would really like to do, and it's still high on my radar, college football for the SEC. I don't think there's a better conference to work college football. I would love to report or host down there. And not only football, but baseball too. I love baseball. And so getting to work, especially minor league, I think minor league is way more fun even sometimes than the major league. But I would just be so grateful to work any sort of baseball too. Another thing, I played volleyball growing up. Again, wasn't good. But I think it would be really fun to cover professional volleyball as well in any capacity. Those are just a few things, and it's always been a dream of mine to work the Olympics. That's a lot of different things.
You got a lot of options.
You could try them all. That's my goal for you is to just give them all a try.
Give them all a try. That's kind of, where I'm at. I do want to just do everything, and I'm excited to see whatever comes next.
Well, we'll be watching. I'm very excited. Again, thank you, Kirsten Krull, for joining us. Where can people find you and Off the Record and Wild Amplified?
Yeah, so Wild Amplified right now airs on wild.com. It comes out every single Friday afternoon, so you can find it on the homepage of the website. Then new show Off the Record. Right now we're on YouTube. You can search us at Off the Record or at OTR Sports on Twitter. And then, just my personal socials, Twitter, Kirsten Krull, Instagram, Kirsten Krull. So yeah, that's the platforms right now.
Go give her some love, you guys.
Yeah.
Go check it out. It's definitely great to have more women in sports. We say it all the time, but it's truly meaningful. So thank you again for joining us. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Calling all Beauts, our Bardown Beauties Teespring line has everything to help make you an official Beaut. Whether it's waking up with a hot cup of coffee from a Bardown Beauties mug, rocking our Land of 10,000 Beauts crew neck, or tossing an official logo on your water bottle, we want to make you an official part of our team. So support the Beauts with the purchase. Go buy something right now. Love you guys.
We're back. Thanks again to Kirsten for joining us. I love that she's been able to succeed so early on. It's so funny when she was, and you're in the same boat, Alexis. Like, it took me forever to finally get here. And I just think it's so exciting to see you guys be able to take your career and those next steps in your career accordingly, especially right now. It's freaking hard out there.
Yeah,
like
during
the
a pandemic,
yeah.
coming out of college it's hard enough to get into the real world, no matter what experience or resume that you have to offer. And so, yeah, especially during a time like this, like it's so difficult. And I know my dad always tells me too, he's like, I'm really thankful that you were out of college and already starting to do stuff before this happened, because you would have been in a much tougher situation had that happened at that time. So awesome to see her doing cool things. Fun seeing people I went to school with who I know are very talented people succeeding in the real world. I really enjoy seeing that.
We're not having a Husky on for a very long time. Fred, you find a Mizzou person, I'll find a Cyclone. We'll bring them on together.
We don't have hockey. We don't have hockey.
Maybe Fred can put on like a wig and we can pretend that he's like a different person so we can interview him.
Perfect. I like it. I like it all. No, so thanks to Kirsten. Be sure to check her out. Give her a follow as well. Up for debate. We mixed it up a little bit. It was Hockey Week Across America, celebrating coaches, players, everything USA Hockey branded. It was also the anniversary of TJ Oshie's shootout goal, which I remember. I will have to tell the story of this first before we get into the for debate. So that happened the day after Valentine's Day, and my husband, that game, right? And it was in Russia, Russia? No, where was it?
No.
Yeah.
Nagano.
It was against Russia. Sorry, not in Russia.
Yeah. Nagano. My bad. Thank you. But so it's like a 6 a.m. puck drop, right?
Yeah.
And I had told my mom I would come over for breakfast, and we'd have this whole, we'd have mimosas and watch this game together. Well, my now husband had rented out like a nice hotel room. We wanted to bounce around, but I was like, okay, we have to go to bed at 10 because we have to get up at 6 so we can go watch a hockey game the next morning.
So romantic.
It was so romantic. But I remember I still have the video of us watching it at my parents and like my mom chanting Oshie and like watching Oshie score. So all of that to lead into the best moment in recent USA hockey history with some Minnesota flair, that one of those being TJ Oshie's extended shootout victory against Russia. Obviously they didn't finish very well in those Olympic games, but it was very exciting.
It wasn't Nagano. I was just joking. It was Sochi.
It was Sochi. Okay, so we were right. Yeah.
I was joking. I don't want anyone to think that.
I was so confused.
Oh my God. Fred is spreading false information. I thought that was wrong, but I was like, you know what? They're probably know more than I do. I'm just going to go with it.
It's all a blur. What is time? Remember, time is just a continuum, guys.
It's made up.
Thank you for correcting yourself, though, Fred. We appreciate that.
Good work.
So that awesome display by TJ Oshie, who went on to beat Russia in that shootout. And you love to see the constant goal score, right? He got to keep coming back. So that was exciting. We also had Zach Parise's overtime goal during the silver medal game against Canada back in the day, 2010. And then you have Maddie Rooney, Andover native here, 2018 gold medal with the U.S. women's Olympic team. Yes, we did not include the 1980 Olympic team because I'm over it. I'm sorry, guys. Like,
okay, listen, I'm not over it, but we wanted to stir the pot, and a couple of you were like, "What about the 1980 team?" And we're like,
we need them to win another gold medal so we can kind of like give those guys a break. It's so funny because I know I've talked about this on the podcast. I got to have shots with those guys, or like hang out with them, and they're so freaking sick of it. Like, can you guys please win another medal so we don't
need
have
a
to
new gold medal
back? But everyone knows that's the gimme. Yeah. So that's why we mixed it up with Oshie, Parise, Maddie Rooney. Long-winded. I'm going to take a break. Alexis, what was your vote?
I went with the women's gold medal just because that was the game I remembered most clearly. I don't remember the other two as much.
You're a child.
I'm a literal child. So that one was only a couple years ago. So that one I remembered. That one was really fun to watch. And the reason that I picked that one was because when that game happened, everybody on my Twitter was talking about women's hockey and excited about women's hockey. And it was one of the first times that I could remember since really getting into the sports world and being prominent on social media, where people were like, my whole timeline was filled with it. People who didn't even watch hockey, people who didn't watch women's hockey, everyone was talking about it. And that was like so cool. I'll never forget that. And plus it was just an exciting game, an exciting finish, the shootout, the Lamoureux twins, like everything about that game was so much fun. So that's why I went with that one. And actually a lot of our followers picked that one as well. I think the Oshie one got the least amount of interaction. Handful of people picked the Parise goal. But yeah, I don't know. I just, something about that women's game was so fun. And like, still, people talking about that. The Lamoureux twins had just retired, within the last week or so. So it was fresh in everybody's mind. So that's the one that I went with. Plus gotta give some love to women's hockey. Fun to see them having some success and advancing women's sports.
And like I said, you needed another gold under USA Hockey's belt. So that was the most recent gold medal that we had. So I agree. I was torn because as I told the great Oshie story, because that lives vividly in my head still. Like it was such a fun day with my family. And, we had this whole Olympic spread and watched the game together. But the Zach Parise one was equally as exciting. So I'm going to go with that one. When I went to school, actually, I was friends with a bunch of Canadians who played hockey on our hockey team. So naturally we got together. There is nothing better than USA versus Canada. It was
a tale as old as time.
Such a fun game. And then to have Parise score that to force overtime in this gold medal game. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was so freaking exciting. I mean, I think my face, along with every American's face, emulated that of Zach's.
And Zach Parise's face.
Yes, exactly. So that's what I went with. Unfortunate that Sidney Crosby, of course, has to score.
Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. Fred, cut that out.
It's so funny. I right after that game, I did my internship with USA Hockey, and they have this statue out in front of the buildings of like a hockey player. Ironically, it is a silver-looking hockey player. So, of course, this is all still fresh in my mind, that same Olympic year. And all my Canadian friends immediately said, wow, that sure looks pretty silver, doesn't it? And I was like,
oh, gosh.
Damn. So those chirps, I live for those chirps.
I have a friend who lives in Toronto and, big Canadian, huge Maple Leafs fan, the whole 9 yards. And he will just randomly from time to time send me clips of Sidney Crosby scoring the game-winning goal. I'm like, don't do this to me. Like, this is just so irrelevant at this point. I don't want to see this. Like, no context. Will just send me a video. And I'm just like, wow, thank you.
Never forget. But no, I mean, that still was an amazing moment. And again, USA did well that tournament. They hadn't done well in the Olympics since, so hopefully change of tide is coming soon. But that was our Up for Debate. Be sure to check out more of those. If you guys have suggestions for topics that you'd like us to debate and talk about, let us know. Shoot us an email, hit us up at our socials, send us a DM, what have you. That's going to do it for this week's episode. Again, thank you to Soda Stick, our presenting sponsor. Shout out to Talk North for featuring us on their lovely network. Thanks to Manscaped, Kowalski's. Thank you to Teespring for letting us host our Bardown Beauties gear. Be on the lookout. We're going to have some new merch coming soon, so stay tuned for that, as well as Minnesota Hockey Fights Cancer. Be sure to check them out, doing a lot of great work here in the state of Minnesota with youth associations in the fight against cancer year round. So subscribe, rate, love. Alexis, what am I forgetting?
I think you got it all. You did a great job. You rolled right through that.
I know, right?
Yeah.
You like that,
Send
Fred?
it home.
Yeah.
Send us home.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Be sure to check out Cues with the Buttes. Have a good day. Near.